Okay, so thank you all again for joining us today. We're really excited to talk a little bit more with you about the value of earning your nationally accredited certification and some important inside tips that you should know about what that means and what is expected of you from an employer perspective. So, we are going to talk about some key things about certification, but really focus on some information around what's expected on the other side. What does it mean for you to have that certification, for an employer to require that even as a possible job expectation? Now, to start off with, here at NHA, please know that we are fully invested in the success for all of our candidates and are here to help ensure that no matter what your background or needs, that you feel confident and empowered to know your resources. And no matter where you are in your journey, to eventually earn your NHA nationally accredited certification. Helping you to know what will be expected of you by your next employer is a pretty big step in this process. Now, to get us all started, I'm actually going to post a couple of questions through a process. It's a poll. So what I'm going to do is post a question out on your page. You should see that posted now. And I'm curious to know a little bit more about you. Are you testing through an academic program, through your employer, or as an individual, not associated to anything? And if you have something that fits in the other box, go ahead and post that in the chat. We just want to get to know everybody a little bit, see who's with us today. We love seeing this data in real time. It's so exciting to get to know you and to be here with you directly. I see there's several Lauras in the line. Hello, my name is Laura too. It's always great. Laura's rock. So it's great. Thanks so much for joining us. Okay, we've got almost everybody. Anyone else want to Annie in on this one? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close that poll down. There we go. So we can see here that the majority of people are here through an academic program, some through their job or employer, but a lot of you are just doing this on your own. What an incredible step you're taking. No matter how you're entering into this process, it's really, really exciting. So thank you all for answering that. That just gives us a little bit more information about where you're coming from. One more quick question. So I've just posted all of the certifications that NHA provides. Would you please just let us know which one you're preparing for? And if you're going to do multiple, that's okay. What's the next one that you are looking to sit for? We're just kind of curious to know where you all are coming from. This is so exciting. So great to have you all here with us today. Okay, we've got the majority of you, about 80% have gone ahead and posted. Just curious to see who else we have out there. Feel free to fill that out. All right, we're slowing down. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up. All right. So if you see here, it looks like we do have a really healthy blend of a lot of different credentials: medical assistant, phlebotomy, billing and coding. We've got some great information for all of you. So no matter which certification you're going for, we've got some really wonderful information to help. So thank you so much for answering that. That's great, great news. Okay, so just to get your bearings, we wanted you to know that NHA does have 8 nationally accredited certifications in 2 sections. 5 of those 8 fall within a practitioner side of frontline healthcare. This includes medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care technician. We also have 3 certifications that are more administrative, which include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-health records. It's a stackable certification with the majority of our credentials to help showcase knowledge in that space. But in addition, NHA does develop learning tools around key objectives in the healthcare professions that we serve. But today, we're really focusing on just those accredited certifications and specifically what employers are expecting. So, okay, let's jump in. The first insider's tip is to really understand what it means to have a certification and know that they are not all created equal. So having a certification represents more than just finishing an academic course or program. It actually shows you've done more and had your abilities, your skills, your knowledge proved through an outside source. You're being evaluated at a national level when you take a certification exam and can show that you have met the requirements, not only that you have a mastery of skills, but that you're able to start work one, day one. So there's a difference here between having a certificate of completion and a certification. We're going to talk a little bit about that. A certificate of completion shows you'd finished training, usually through an educational program. An example, earning your high school diploma shows you finished a program. You've done all the things to get that certificate of completion, that diploma. A certification is different. It's obtained through usually a national agency by taking and passing a credentialed exam. So think about the difference of going to medical school and becoming a doctor. You aren't a doctor just because you graduated med school. You still have to study for and pass a test or several, depending, to earn your license. So the difference between a certificate of completion and a certification. So when looking to get your certification, it's always important to note if it's an accredited one. But truly, what does that even mean, right? Having an accredited certification like those with NHA means that you're being tested and evaluated at an industry level. You're not just being tested on what we think you should know, but what the industry says you need to know. Not all certifications are accredited. Making sure that yours is can make a huge difference for your potential employers. So the NHA certification exams, all 8 that we mentioned earlier, are accredited through the Institute for Credentialing Excellence with the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, or what we call internally the NCCA. This means that the certifications themselves are nationally recognized and accredited. In addition, these certifications are recognized by the largest program requirements, which confirm academic programs. We are sponsoring organizations of Mayor Ben Kahab, which means we help to establish what the industry standards should be. So all of this is to say that your decision in working with NHA, you can feel confident that we are setting you up for success because with NHA, you can earn an industry nationally accredited certification. Can't wait to see your face there. A quick search on any certification organization's website, like NHA's, should bring up the ability to see their accreditation status. Always, always, always do your research beforehand to make sure that what you are earning really stands for something in the industry. A little bit of more information to know is that NHA is the largest frontline healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. We currently have over 1 million certified candidates and are leading the industry in the resources we can provide to help as you prepare for your test. Okay, so the next super tip on certification is understanding what employers think about it, specifically why it's important. So, why do employers want you to get certified? Well, I mentioned earlier, we work with employers across the country and know that they value candidates who have that certification. We see this in that those who do are more likely to get the job in the first place, often have a higher pay scale, better job security, even pathways for career advancement. Having your certification also tells employers that your skills are credible. It shows you have a set of abilities that have been proven, which will provide them with improved standards of safety and care. And this is often what employers are tasked to make sure that they have. And it's a big benefit for them to not have to worry about you day one. So, for example, even though a job ad may be looking for medical assistant or a biller encoder, when they go to screen applications during that job process, having credentials and a national certification will make you stand out, even if it's not posted in the job description. In fact, in a recent survey of employers across the country, 91% of healthcare employers reported they would hire a candidate who has a certification over one who doesn't. It's a really, really big number. A little bit more information, we know that employers don't only prefer you to be certified, but most require it. Here's information per certification. You can see that for most roles, employers are expecting you to be certified. You can see the reported percentages from employers that are expecting you to have your industry certification. Here is another example of just 4 of our 8 certifications. Specifically, what hiring managers have shared are the most important pieces when they screen applications. You can see that if you're applying for a job, even if the posting doesn't say they're requiring a certification, they're looking to see if you have one to even make it to that first interview. To simplify, that was a lot of numbers, I know, but basically, on average, most healthcare employers highly encourage or require that their staff earn or have industry certifications. Also, most HR teams use whether you have one in a screening process prior to hire. Now, what they want and what they think are not always the same, but we know those employers across the country have expressed they think, they feel that having a certification for a potential employee in that field means you are better prepared for the job. It's a lot of great info. So now that you understand about what they think about having a certification, let's talk about what they've shared they need from a potential employee who has that certification. So a couple items from a recent survey also showed that the most important skills that a candidate needed to show beyond certification, so this is outside of the technical skills, these are called soft skills. The most important soft skills that you need to show are professionalism, critical thinking, dependability, and verbal communication. So these are not tied to that, again, that technical side, but are labeled as soft skills. Now, of these, it was also identified that critical thinking and dependability were the most often missing in potential candidates. When employers talk with NHA and we ask what they're looking for in a candidate, they say they need to have their certification, soft skills, and soft skills. Now, NHA does have some additional resources around developing these essential soft skills that you can also look into. Computer skills are also important. Even in just a few short years, the increase of telehealth went from 11% of visits to 46%. We know it isn't going away anytime soon. Your ability to keep your professionalism and communication in virtual discussions is a huge benefit to an employer and can help to enhance the patient experience, which again is what they are often evaluated on. It's a really important deal for you to feel confident and comfortable in that online and technical space. In the last few years, we've seen some other industry trends on hiring and candidate skills, and we know that on average, employers have a hard time locating qualified candidates, which is why having your certification can really make a difference based on what we've discussed so far. Recently, there's also been an increase in employers reporting that healthcare employees have more responsibilities. And on average, candidates are lacking required EMR skills. This is true for all roles, but the gap was especially large in some more than others. Getting your industry certification or even stacking that with additional certifications can provide employers confidence that you are equipped to do the job at hand. Now, employers value your ability to meet these needs. And of those interviewed, the majority confirmed they will increase candidate pay when or if an employee earns a professional certification. Remember, that's different from getting a program certificate of completion. In another study, those who earned an initial certification on average had a 16% increase in earnings over time. It's a huge change. We know that starting is often the hardest part. And an increase in pay is a great place to begin. So, getting that first certification is a major step in your long term success. But what does the data say for those who do work on stacking certifications? Recent research shows that healthcare is one of the most popular areas in which stacking certifications are found. Those who choose to build on their skills, not just continue in the same stuff, but build on some different pieces, have a higher benefit. So for example, earning both a medical assistant and phlebotomy certification have shown a higher benefit for income, as well as a probability to get the job. Not just the job you can get, but the job you want. And those who earn a certification see a higher probability of an increase in pay. Those who stack certifications can see anywhere from an average of 11% to 46% possible increase compared to those with a single certification. It also reflects that most learners who stack credentials move on to more education, with 71% earning an associate's degree and 9% earning a bachelor's degree within 4 years of completing their certification. The first certification is just your first step on an incredible road to a career in healthcare. Okay, so the industry is growing. You've picked a great field, and you know that getting certified is going to help you move forward. Great. But now what? How do you know what to do to move forward? It's a big question, and that's where NHA can step in to help. Depending on the program, employer, or process you're in, you may be able to have NHA study materials provided to you. You may already have them, but using these will be the best way to get you ready for test day. So I want to ask another quick question here. I'm going to post another poll. For those of you who are with us today, how many of you have already created an NHA login? Do you have your login or don't you have your login yet? Just want to kind of see where everybody's coming from here. Excellent. Got a lot of people posting. This is great. I love seeing this. Okay. Almost done. We've got almost everybody. Anybody else want Annie in? Okay, gonna close that up here in just a second. All right. So it looks like 91%. This is great. A huge amount of you have already created your login. That's fantastic. Very excited to see that. We're going to talk a little bit about that login just to make sure everything is set up. For those of you who haven't done it yet, that's okay. Now's a great day, right? Today's better than never. But when you do set that account up, or if you already have it, we have a couple of recommendations, some best practices. So if possible, before test day, we recommend that your NHA login email address is one that you check frequently, not just through your program or your employer, but one that you will continue to access once you're done. Also, be sure you know what your password is. I know the password requirements are very specific, but you don't want to be stuck in a testing center and unable to test due to a forgotten password. So make sure it's a password you'll check long term. The other is to be sure that the name on your account is your legal name, first and last name, whatever is on your government issued photo ID. This is what they will use on exam day to verify you. And if your account and your ID names don't match, they may not allow you to test. So these are things you can do now, get fixed, make sure they're set up correctly to take away any unnecessary stress on exam day. So using the NHA study materials, which are based on our tests themselves, is a great way to help as you prepare. So the full preparation package will include an online study guide and a series of practice tests, as well as personal reports and a secondary study tool called the focused review. Now, I mentioned several programs or employers may provide this, but if you don't have access to this, this is something you can purchase on your own. A quick note about those materials. On our website, you will find additional resources to help you, but let's just talk over what these tools really do. So the study guide is broken into main categories or sections, each one directly tied to a core content area from your exam. It's not enough as an exam program, right? So it's not enough to study on its own. If you're in an academic program or working through an employer, you want to continue those pieces. But these chapters will take you through how NHA will talk to this material and test you on it. You can have access to activities, different kinds of games to help as you learn, quizzes, checkpoints, and a total of 6 practice test attempts, which we're going to talk about. There are also tools like glossaries of key terms, flashcards, and even professionalism videos. These are a huge help in understanding what's expected of you in this new role. Not just if you can do the job, remember those soft skills, but are you a good employee, right? Now, to help, NHA recently launched a flashcard app. So once you do have access to the NHA study materials, you can download this app and log in with your NHA login. It should then take you through all of the flashcards you have access to with fun ways to keep organized and help as you study. You can easily download this for any mobile device. There are how-tos on our website that walk you through how to do that depending on the type of device that you have. So that's all on the study side of the study materials. Now, I mentioned some practice tests that you have access to. They're designed to look and feel each practice test exactly like the exam itself. You're taken through several different test versions with a total of 6 attempts. Now, just because you get a bunch of tries doesn't mean you should take them all right away to memorize questions. It's not what these are for. Your practice assessments are designed to help you prepare and study for your exam. Each attempt is the full certification test scored questions. But don't expect that these questions are going to be on the actual certification test. They're designed to follow the full test plan outline for all scored questions, but give you feedback, reporting, additional tools to help you study. Depending on the type of material you have, you may have the option to see rationales behind those answers. Now, we do suggest for you to try for at least one, if not 2 practice tests as close to a real exam feel as you can. So not paying attention to the rationales, timing yourself to make sure that you're all set for test day. It's not even that important that you use all 6 assessments, more so that you study in between. So though you get 6 total attempts, we see those that use at least the first 4 have a higher possibility of passing the certification test. Now, along with those practice tests comes a focused review. This is part of the package tied to each attempt to help you focus further on those areas you haven't mastered yet. So this helps to make sure that you're taking time to review before your next attempt. Your focused review is filterable. It's also printable. You can go back and review certain areas, spend time in competencies you know you need to work on the most. It's not the same as a study guide, it's not interactive, but it can make a huge difference in helping you through this final piece of your studying and preparation. All of these also have detailed reporting for you to see what you've done. Where have you spent your time? How well are you doing across the materials? Now, we are hosting other webinars where we talk more specifically on the best ways to use this material, which you can register for. Find that through our upcoming events area or view the pre-recorded sessions already in our resource center. I know we've got one coming up here at the end of the month, more specifically to study habits and using that study material. Now, we get a lot of questions on eligibility. So how do you know if you're eligible to take one of NHA's certification tests? It's a big question. So right from your home screen, you have an option to find out if you're eligible to test. So once you click on that, scrolling down on this page takes you to a short quiz you can take, as well as a link to the candidate handbook. Here you can see all of the requirements for eligibility. Now, in most cases, those of you who said earlier you're doing this through an academic program, that's all you should need to meet the minimum requirements to test. So those of you who are doing this through an academic program, you're good to go. Now, that For everyone else, we want to outline some more eligibility options. So it really starts with what we define as a training program. Again, an academic program. Successfully completing that in the last 5 years can provide that eligibility. So this does include employer-based programs, military programs, apprenticeship programs. But for those of you that don't have that opportunity, you can also be eligible based off of your work experience. So if you've worked at least one full year of work experience in that role in the last 3 years, that also shows that you are eligible to test. No matter how you're studying, you now know that there are resources available to you. But okay, how do you make sure that your exam day is great? Let's look at a timeline. So you should start by creating your NHA login if you haven't already. The sooner you set this up, the better. We've seen that those who have this set up earlier have a higher probability not only in taking their test, but passing it. So if you haven't done this yet, today is the day. Now is a great time. If you can, or if your program is providing it, get access to those study materials as soon as possible. A recent survey of over 6,000 certification holders said that they wish they had done that sooner so they could study better prior to testing. Now, on that, following good study habits is an important part. With the NHA materials, we recommend you go through the study guide first, using it to help you see what NHA is going to test you on through that studying. And then when the time is right, start taking your practice tests. Again, these follow the full test plan. So use them to see how you do if today was test day. Do not use them to memorize questions. That will not help you. But that's where the focused review comes in. Use it and any additional materials that you may have to study in between each practice test attempt. Be sure to apply for your exam as early as you can. Best is at least 2 weeks before your exam date, if not earlier. You have to apply at least a week in advance, so make sure everything is ready to go. So get that done as soon as you can, as soon as is realistic. The day before your test, be sure you know your login email and password. You can't reset your password during an exam, and you're going to be on a different computer than you've been studying on, and it won't have your saved passwords, and you don't want to get stuck in the testing center without being able to log in. Now, remember also to show up early on exam day. Plan ahead for traffic and parking. Then you can finally take the NHA nationally accredited exam and earn your industry certification to become certified. Just a general timeline, some best practices. Okay, another quick question I'm going to post out for everybody. So we talked a lot just then about the study materials. I'm curious if you're using it. Is this something that's new to you? Do you already have it? Are you planning to get this on your own? Just look over these options and select the one that most applies to where you are. While we're doing that, there's a couple folks who have a hand raised on your login. Please go ahead and post your question in the Q&A box on the NHA portal, or not NHA portal, the Zoom login there, and we'll be able to get those questions answered directly. So I'm going to lower those hands that are open. If you had your hand raised, post your question specifically in that Q&A. Perfect. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this up. So it looks like most of you, I'm going to share this out, actually do have those study materials, which is great. You're not, some might not be sure and tend to get them on our own, but this is wonderful. Thank you so much for answering that. That's really exciting to see. All right. So that's all about preparation, about the value of certification. But the next thing you need to know is what's expected of you once you are certified. Then what? Right? Just having that certification is a huge, huge, huge first step. But now we need to make sure that employers know and there are more options available. So once you pass your exam, keep going. I mentioned earlier the value of stacking your certification with other credentials. You may already be eligible for the eHealth Records certification based on your experience or program. And remember, those who keep going have even more opportunities available to them. NHA also has a job board on our website where employers across the country are posting jobs looking for certified candidates. We have a blog space where we post interview preparation tools, job search tips, resume writing suggestions. We host podcasts you can listen to, and we also have these webinars, of course. It's also important to know that your certifications don't last forever. You need to keep them updated by completing continuing education credits. You can do this through your NHA portal or upload completed coursework from an employer or program. Now, we mentioned earlier soft skills. Well, NHA has several resources here that you can purchase, complete, and go through earning a certificate of completion. Remember, we talked about the difference there. Doing that through your NHA portal can count as credits towards your renewal. So some of them include online role play and simulations for skills and professionalism or communication, population health management. These can help address some of those core missing soft skills that we talked about earlier. Now, we highly recommend that you create a professional profile, whether that be through LinkedIn or some other resource. Have some online presence where you can be sure to add your credentials. Employers do Google you. Try it yourself sometime. Make sure that they see not only that you have your certification, but that you're showing a strong and professional face. That's a really big deal. You can also put your certification credentials after your name in your email signature or resume. Make it clear you are certified. Use every resource. So, for example, talking to a program career services team through your academic program can help you identify what happens next. Don't forget to bookmark or save our website at nhanow.com so you can reference back to all these materials. And finally, once you've earned your certification, go online and tell us about it. Post the hashtag NHA certified. Go to any social media platform and tell us your story. We really do read these and we love hearing from you. Another really great benefit, relatively recent, is that NHA is working with a program called the American Council on Education, also called ACE, easier, and has just been approved for some of our certifications, if you've earned them, to provide transferable college credit. Earning your certification can give you college credit through a program called Credly. More information on this is on our website. We're working on getting all of our certifications set up this way, so keep an eye out on that. So to help again with all of this, NHA has resources you'll be getting, reminder emails directly from us at specific times through your journey. They're going to give you, hey, don't forget, renew your certification. Here's ways to study, different fun resources and reminders. We also have how-to resources on our website available for you at any time through your login in a helpful resource library. How do I study? How do I access? How do I apply for? How do I reschedule? NHA also has a blog space I mentioned, a job board, webinars like today, our flashcard app, all kinds of things to help you that are available at any time through your NHA account. So here is an example of just one of our candidate testimonials. And I want to be really clear. We love hearing from you. Now, we know that it is not a joke that working in healthcare is hard, but it is also incredibly rewarding. And we are so proud of all of you for taking your first step on this road. You're not just changing your life, but the lives of those around you. The people in your life are watching you and the hard work and dedication you're putting into this, and it will make a difference. We have lots of these inspiring testimonials out on our YouTube channel, and we can't wait to hear yours once you've earned your NHA certification. So it's really exciting. Okay, I got another quick question for you. I'm going to post another thing up here. Based on the information we've covered, and this does have a little scroll bar at the bottom if you need it, take a look here. What other webinars or resources would you like to learn more about? As we make more of these, we want to make sure we're bringing you the information that you need. You can pick more than one of these. So this just helps us to know how we can continue to provide resources, walkthroughs, information sessions. We're working right now on our 2023 sessions. So go ahead and select the one or ones that you think you'd be really interested in joining at some point. Perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for just I know there's a lot to read through. I'm going to give you just another minute here. I'm sure there are a lot of questions, but this is great. I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit as we move forward. I'm going to close this down. If anybody else wants to post anything, feel free, but I'm going to end the poll here in just a second. It really does look like you guys are interested in just about everything, so that helps. Thanks so much for that. We're going to do our best to provide you resources and other webinars and info sessions around these pieces. So thank you so much, everybody, for sharing that. I appreciate it. Okay, so before we get to the end, I want to remind you that NHA will send out the recording from today to everyone who registered for our session. We're going to post it on our website in our resources section, and we're going to answer some Q&A here in just a minute. And also, once we get a couple steps forward, we're going to post that survey link. So anybody who fills out the survey we're going to post has the option, if you fill that out, to be put into a raffle to win a $50 gift card. So please fill that out when we get you there. So you can subscribe or register for other webinars that we host from our resources page in the upcoming events field. So please take a look there. I know we have another one coming up at the end of the month. We're going to post some for November and December. So please join us for any that work for you there. But thank you guys so much for being with us today. We're really, really excited to have you here. We love going directly, talking one-on-one with you. Take a look in the chat box. My friend Lauren has just posted the survey link for you. Anyone who fills that out is going to be put into that $50 raffle. So please go ahead and fill that out. Give us some good feedback there. Now, I know that there are probably questions. That's why we left some pretty big time here to talk a little bit about that. So I'd love to open it up to my team. Hey, team, what questions do we have? What's kind of populated as we've been chatting here today?
Okay, Laura, this is Mary. What I wanted to have you explain a little bit better is what materials can you take into the CBCS exam, and what version of those books do they need to have in hand?
Great question. Those of you, I see you're posting some questions in the chat. Please put those over into the Q&A so we can be sure to address them as they go. But Mary, that's a great question. Let's talk a little bit about the CBCS exam. It is kind of a unique beast, right? Out on our website, we're going to just go out to the main NHA website here. Mary, I think you're not, I'm going to put you back on mute, sweetie. Okay, there we go. So I just go to the nhanow.com website. This is where you can create your account. You can log in through your program if you have that. But I'm going to go to this Get Certified dropdown. So this is just nhanow.com. Everybody has access to this. And if you specifically have questions around the billing and coding, well, guess what? We have answers for you. I'm going to click on this billing and coding space, and right up at the top, you're going to see some information here in this big orange banner around the coding manuals required of you and what's expected. And you can click here to learn more about them. We have an FAQ sheet to look at, all kinds of resources. But to really boil it down, if you are testing for the NHA billing and coding exam, you are expected, required even, to bring with you the 3 core coding manuals in the current version. So that means right now, the 2022 manuals. You can have handwritten notes in those manuals. You can also have tabs on pages. You cannot, however, bring inserted pages into that testing center. So if there's any inserts you have, take those out. You need to make notes of those instead, but you can you're required to bring your 3 manuals. You can also bring 2 pencils. If paper is required for any reason to take notes or make calculations of any kind, that would be provided by the proctor in the testing space. So the only thing you can bring in are those manuals and a couple pencils. So that's it. Did that answer that question, Mary?
Yes, that did. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Another question that we had was, can you please explain scaled scoring?
Okay, that's a big one. Yes, I am happy to explain scaled scoring. So what they're referencing here is the NHA scoring process for the exams, which is a really specific thing. So they're referencing to the NHA test plan. It's part of understanding your certification. What is going to be on my test, right? How does that work? So the test plan, which I've talked a couple times here, is the blueprint, the outline of that test. You can find this from that same area, select the certification type that you want. At the bottom is a downloadable test plan. But how are they scored, right? How does that work? So that test plan outline is really where we start. That test plan is going to break out for you all of the items that we could test you on during that exam, starting with the amount of scored versus non-scored. So it's going to be labeled as pre-test, which I know can be kind of confusing. Pre-test is an analytics term that really means non-scored. So really pay attention to the number of scored items, which is what the test plan is based on. The non-scored questions, which you will not know which ones are scored and which ones are not. Okay, just know that. But the non-scored questions don't hurt you. So you want to be sure to answer all of your questions to the best of your ability. The test plan is going to show you how many scored questions you could have in each category. So when we create a test, we evaluate the possible questions you may get, because not everyone's going to get the same questions. Isn't that fun? So we want to make sure that your questions that you get, that you're scored fairly. If you get a lot of hard ones or some easy ones or however that works, your score is yours. So to do that, we evaluate what those scores are based off of how hard is that question. How often in your job might you have to do this thing, or how important is it you get it right the first time? So no matter what test you're taking, medical assistant, phlebotomy, pharmacy tech, billing and coding, you have a possible to earn 500 points on your test. After we've weighed and evaluated and kind of chewed on all the different possible questions, 500 is a perfect score. What you're aiming for is 390 or higher. That is the minimum requirement for a passing score on that test. Now, because all the questions are weighted, that doesn't necessarily mean that they all cover the same amount of points. So getting a 389, for example, doesn't necessarily mean you missed one question, but that after we've added up all of your points, you didn't quite make that minimum expected score. So that's what that weighted score, what the scaled scoring is that Mary was just talking about. Did that answer that question, Mary?
Yes, it did, Laura. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. What else is popping up here?
Someone has taken the practice test for the first time, and if they got a 77%, how do they know what their score really is?
Oh, you don't. I'm sorry. That's a really, really rough question, and you don't. Because that practice test, it's a great indicator, right? But that's giving you just a pure percentage of accuracy across those different pieces. You want to reach as high as you can, right? A 77%, that's great. How much better can you do? And so the point is, you got a lot of practice tests. So now take your score report, take your focus review, work further. How much further can you push yourself? You're aiming for the highest possible score you can get, not because you memorized questions, but because you know this material. So if you feel confident at a 77, rock on. That could be enough. Have I seen people ace practice tests and not pass an exam? Yes, I have. Have I seen people not do well on a practice test, but do great on an actual exam? Yeah. However, statistically, if you follow those steps we were talking about, if you follow that timeline, let me see if I can go back to that particular image that we were looking at earlier, that timeline, here it is, of studying, of practicing, of taking these steps and putting in the time, statistically, you are going to have a higher potential on your exam itself. So that's really, it's about the time and study, not necessarily the assessment outcomes, but a good score is always a good thing. So unfortunately, my friend, there is not a perfect score to get on a practice test, but I would challenge you to never be satisfied. Keep pushing, keep studying, keep working hard, and you won't be disappointed. Does that sound okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, great question.
And then Patrick is asking a question. He sees job postings requiring plus certified medical code CPC or CCS-P required. Is this the same as CBCS?
Oof, that is a really great question. And actually not one that I'm sure that I have the answer to. Is that posted in the Q&A, that particular question?
Yes, it is. And I wasn't going to take a drive at because I wasn't
All
positively,
right.
positive about knowing that answer.
Okay.
So,
So our friend that posted that, what I am giving you as a promise after we're done here today, though maybe not tonight because it's a little bit late for me, but I will be looking into that for you and I will follow up with you directly on that answer. Does that sound okay?
yes.
Great.
Okay. So we did scaled scoring. Can we test at home?
Oh, good question. It depends on your program. Yes, maybe. So depending on how some people, as we saw earlier, are aligned through an academic program, through an employer, and depending on how they are setting up those tests, you either are testing at a given location unique to your institution. So through a school, for example, in a testing center or computer lab, or at your clinic through your computer space or in an office. Some programs don't have the ability to do that. And in that scenario, we're going to talk a little bit about testing through our third party testing agency, which is called PSI. If you have the option to schedule your test through PSI, our third party testing agency, one of the options is testing remotely. So, what does that mean? Right? How does that work? Remote testing does not mean you have a take home test. It means that you're testing it with the same amount of security as you would in person, but from a different location. So that's where we've got lots of resources here to get you started. What does it mean to test remotely? How does it work? What should I expect? What should I prepare for in advance? All of these resources are available on our website to help you with this process if this is an option to you. Now, if you're testing through an institution that normally tests on site with them, but you have to test remotely, we can help you with that. But follow up through your institution first, just to make sure everything is set up correctly. So you can potentially test at home, but that does not mean it's not secure. There are a lot of requirements there. This experience guide is really important to make sure your testing space is set up correctly, that you have everything the way it needs to be. For example, one of the requirements to test remotely is that you don't have any other technology in the room you're testing in. In my house, that ain't going to work because I have in the room that I'm in right now, my computer, my kid's computer, a TV, right? I'm in the big, like, weird office space. I don't have a secure space in my house that I can be alone for the full duration of the test. And there isn't the potential for any other technology. So I would have to test elsewhere. Does that make sense? So there's a lot of options there. However, it might not always be the right option. So yes, it is possible to test at home, but if it's the right option for you or not is up to you, your program, and the space available to you. So it's a great question.
Laura, there was another question about the percentage on practice assessments that indicate passing. So I know you already answered that, but could you maybe revisit the reporting that's available to them in their prep as a way to also look at their readiness to test?
Oh, great. What a great question. Yes. Let's see if I have any like pre-curated slides here to talk about reporting. All right. I am going to pull a dummy, I say that like it's a dummy, candidate to talk about some of the reports available. So we mentioned earlier that you do have reports available to you through your NHA portal, different analytics, depending on the type of program that you're in, the type of certification that you're studying for. So a lot of that just kind of depends. Let me just see if I can pull up a candidate here that we can play with so we can do some live walkthroughs. Let's see. Sorry, guys, this is live. While I pull that up, are there any other questions on the that I can answer while I'm getting that pulled up live for us?
I just had one earlier on, and the question was, is it wise to stack credentials, like example, certified billing and coding and electronic health records?
Well, we talked a little bit about that. Based off of the data that we can see, diversifying your certifications, so having them be in multiple areas, is incredibly valuable. I've got something pulled up, but I'm going to address that question real fast because I know I had some data on that. So we're talking specifically, for example, around the EMR or our e-health record certification. If you look at this last bullet point, these 3 professions specifically, billing and coding, administrative assistant, and medical assistant, have the lowest kind of average skills gap. So this is where people are saying, hey, if you're in a biller and coder role, 44% of those individuals are lacking EMR skills that are basic. So if you show up and you have your billing and coding cert and your EMR certification, you're already 44% ahead of everybody else. Does that make sense? So there is definitive value. We also see that there's value for you in your potential income, the jobs available to you, and how far you can go. Statistically, you're going to go further the more you work on your education, the more you further these processes. So there is definitely value in that as an option. Okay, so I've pulled up a pretend student. This is not a real person. This is a pretend student who's currently enrolled in some academic programs. And we're going to take a quick look at the reporting that Gary's last name is Got This. This is Gary Got This, you guys, and he's going to go take a look at his study materials. I'm going to go into my courses. So Susan, this is going back to your question. So Gary's enrolled in 2 different courses right now, and he's going to go take a look at his current course. And here you can see he's got a progress tracker, but he's not yet taken a practice test. So that might not actually be the best. So I'm going to go back out to my courses. And let's take a look at his billing and coding. There's his report, as well as his report here for his first, as well as second practice test attempt. So this is where you can see the attempt that you've taken and launch your review. So if I want to view my practice test report, I want to see how well I did. And this is, I think, Susan, kind of what you were asking, right? Kind of how do I know what I'm looking at? And
Yeah, because they're for students who are kind of leaning on that percentage, because that's what they're used to in school. How do they look at their reports and understand if they're ready to test?
Yeah. So Gary, right? Gary got this. So Gary's good to go, right? He's done really, really well in his practice test attempt. But what you see, this is an extreme scenario. It is highly unusual to have a score this high in your practice test attempt. But across his core learning areas, so if you look at this items column here, this is the blueprint of the exam. So no matter what, he's going to have 15 questions in revenue cycle, 20 in eligibility or payer requirements, 32 in coding guidelines. And he can see how well he did in each core area. So this is a pure accuracy rating across those pieces. This does not take into account the scaled scoring. But my goodness, he did really well. So he only has a couple of things that we say, hey, Gary, you should probably go look back on this. But that gives you a little bit of visibility to see what his reports look like and how well he's doing or not doing. So if you see that you're really struggling in a certain area on a practice test, well, it's a good idea to maybe go back and review that area further using your focused review. And here's a little bit more of an another kind of iteration. It's a bit more normal for that first practice test. So he's got some areas that he's struggling in. I would say 56. These are areas that I know I'm not quite ready. I feel uncomfortable. Honestly, the best thing to do if you're really worried is test yourself, right? How confident do you feel? If you look at that test blueprint, do you feel good in those areas? You feel like you can answer questions on the fly without looking it up in a book? But this is his blueprint for any question he missed at least one question on from his practice test. To say, hey, these are area gaps that you should go and review further, right? That you need to work on. And I can launch my focused review right from here to go and do that. Right? You can go and look at that. You can review, you can print things off, you can filter this material. So after each practice test attempt, you're going to get this assessment report. So what it looks like right when you finish your test. So you can see where you missed questions, in what category, and how many questions, right? So I missed 6 questions in coding and coding guidelines. Well, what were they across, right? This is an area of improvement. So it's all about personal improvement and growth, which is, again, why we don't really suggest that you aim for a particular score, but you do the time and study. The only way to improve your score is to do the work, to really go in, use that study guide, go back and review, use your focused review, spend the time, use the flashcards. There's lots of resources available to you. Spend the time in study to really take you there. Hopefully, Susan, did that address your question?
It did. Hopefully that helped those who are wondering about the percentage correct. So it's not so much the percentage correct is looking at the breakdown on the reports that we provide and looking at the areas where you can really improve, because you may not want to focus on the area where you're already getting 80% of the questions correct. You want to focus on the areas where you're not answering as many questions correct. And what most of us tend to do is we tend to focus on the areas that we're comfortable, where we know the information, and we tend to shy away from studying the areas where we don't know the information because it makes us uncomfortable. So
Right.
as you're studying for exams, look at these reports and really force yourself to focus and study the areas that you're not comfortable with, because that's where you can get the best improvement and the bang for your buck on your study time. Is look at the reports, focus on the areas that you're not doing well in, that you have opportunity for improvement. And the focused review is going to take you, and Laura's showing you this right now, the focused review is going to take you directly to the areas and the content where you can remediate and where you can review and study the areas that you need to review to have the best improvement in your study time.
Nailed it. Exactly. Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are coming up on our 1 hour, and I do want to just take a quick minute to say thank you to everybody who was with us today. I'm going to go to my thank you slide again real quick. Hold on. Thank you for your time. We are going to stick around for a few more minutes and answer a couple of the lingering questions that are out there, but we want to thank you all who could join us. Lauren, if you could repost that survey link again real quick. So anyone who fills out this survey is going to be put into a raffle. So all it takes is to fill out the questions on this survey, and if you do so, you'll be put into a raffle to win a $50 gift card. So thank you so much. Take a look at our webinar we've got at the end of the month. There's a lot of great information we're going to share in that about studying, about preparing, what to expect on exam day. Today was more about the industry and what they expect from you. So we've got a lot of other great information out there, but thank you all again so much. We're going to stop the recording here in just a minute, but answer a couple more questions so we can make sure everybody feels comfortable. So have a great day and evening for anyone who needs to jump off.